Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to give us another minute or so as people are joining. I see it looks like we still have a few people jumping on, and then we're going to get started with today's presentation.
Hopefully everybody's had their morning coffee or tea. We'll try our best not to put anybody to sleep this morning.
At least we're not talking about insurance. Insurance, IT, you know. All right, it looks like last of everybody has joined now, so we're going to go ahead and kick off. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, Managing HR Compliance with a Remote Workforce. I'm sure for many of you, this is a very relevant conversation in our new world. I know for us at KatzPierz, you know, we are still working virtually, we're still working remote, so very much within our realm of reality right now. So today we're really just going to be going over some best practices, some tips as you're managing your remote workforce. You know, some things to keep in mind, you know, whether you're advising employees that are working from home or just some things to keep in mind as we're, you know, learning to adapt within today's new world. So today we have Mitch Brochaner, Brochaner, right? Go ahead, Mitch.
Good, board chainer.
Borochainer, there we go. I was close enough, right? I practiced beforehand too. Joining us from Ansero, he's the sales engineering manager. My name is Chrissy Magnata. I'm the director of client engagement here at KatzPierz. In the background, Mitch also has Paul Boyer, managing partner of Ansero, and Megan Kinghorn, who's a channel manager over at Ansero. For those of you who do not know who we are, KatzPierz is an employee benefits firm based out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. We work with all size clients in regard to consulting on the employee benefit space. You know, in today's world, we really find ourselves getting into a lot of HR conversations. And that's why we felt that today's conversation was a great one to bring to you all today. We partnered with Ansero, I guess, a little over a year ago. And I got to be honest, it was one of the best decisions we ever made. We actually moved to their Microsoft Azure cloud platform right before COVID hit. So we were really, it was really easy for us to all kind of disperse to our homes, go into quarantine, and not skip a beat when it came to keeping up with, you know, just our daily activities. So we were so grateful to have Ansero as a partner. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to bring them on and invite them as our presenter today. So before we kick off, I just have a couple of questions I'm going to throw out to you guys. If you want to just type in your answers in the chat box as Mitch starts to kick off today's presentation, just to kind of give us an idea of where you guys are today. First question is, what are your biggest concerns with employees working from home? You know, what are your biggest challenges that you're dealing with today, or maybe what you're kind of thinking of in the future? What are those things that are keeping you up at night? And the second is, what are some things that you're doing to help with those concerns? What are some creative things that you've been able to come up with and really work through that have helped you in managing your employees as they're working from home, working with a remote workforce, learning how to live in this virtual world? So if you want to just go ahead and type in your answers in the chat box, that would be great. While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Mitch to start off today's presentation.
Thank you, Chrissy. Appreciate it. So first, let me say good morning to everyone. And I guess I want to start off by thanking the KatzPierz team for giving us the opportunity to participate and present for everybody this morning. For those of you who do not know who Ansero is, we are a 20-plus-year-old cloud solution provider. We're really known as the cloud company. And, you know, we do a lot of different things here. It's all cloud related, from managing and monitoring our customers' environments to moving them into the cloud securely. And we also do a lot of hosted voice over IP as well, which again is in the cloud. So, again, we've been around for 20 plus years, right here based out of Mount Laurel, New Jersey, which is where our headquarters is, and pretty much everything that we do is focused out of here. So again, good morning to everyone. And, our presentation today, we don't have a tremendous amount of slides, so we're not going to bore you with a lot of slides, but we think the content's really good and really relevant, especially what's going on today in the environments that we're dealing with. So without further ado, I will kind of kick this off. And again, any questions or whatever, please feel free to, put anything in the chat window, and we're going to allot some time at the very end for any questions. So to start off, I guess, even before we get really heavy into the presentation, I want to talk about, some of the most important things, I think, for every company today, and that's really your data and how you're protecting your data. And you need to have a lot of these different security measures in place really to protect that data, because it's really the most valuable asset for any company. So, we talk about security, we talk about compliance, and really those two things go hand in hand. When we talk about security and compliance, security for us is really a layered approach, and you got to look at it from all different layers, and that's from everything from protecting how your environment is accessed from the outside world to securing your devices that people are using to connect into your environment. And these are everything from your endpoint devices, your computers, your laptops, your smartphones, your tablets. And then, one of the biggest things is also educating and ongoing education of your employees. So, some of the compliance challenges that, a lot of companies are dealing with today, is, these devices that people are using, right? How do we make sure that we keep our compliance? Because most companies are just, when all this started, they're sending their people home and they needed to get them to work really quickly. So they're dealing with home computers. They're dealing with machines that, again, most home users, they have some sort of antivirus usually on their computer to protect them from viruses. Do they all have some sort of malware protection to protect them against malware and ransomware and all these bad things that we hear in the news every day? And believe it or not, most personal computers, a lot of individuals aren't backing up their individual PCs today. And obviously that creates a challenge, because, you don't want any company data residing on the same personal machine that you're using at home. Again, for people who have kids, usually the kids are using the same machine. If you have more than one machine, great, but you always have the challenge of kids sharing your computers, and God knows now, granted, my kids are much, much older now, but I remember when they were very young, you never know what they're doing, where they're going, what they're downloading, and that always becomes a challenge. And especially if you're using that same device for work, it can create problems for you. The other challenge is obviously when we're working remotely and we're working from home, you always have the challenges of your home internet. Again, for most of us in this area, in the southern part of New Jersey, we're dealing with usually Comcast, we're usually dealing with Fios. So, there's always challenges and outages that you have to deal with. On the Comcast side, you always have the challenges of, because it's never really a dedicated connection, you're sharing your connection with your neighbors and other people. So, how secure is that environment? It's only as secure as you make it. And for business owners, when you're working from home, there's really no measurable way, really out of the gate, out of the box, really on what the employee is doing on their personal computer, right? We all take into consideration, we're all professionals. We should be doing what we're supposed to be doing, but there's really no way, because it's not a company device, to really track or understand what that person's doing on that personal machine. So, using a personal computer for work-related things is certainly, a concern for should be a concern for any business owner, because they don't have the control really they need, again, and it all comes back to protecting the data, which is that most important asset for any company. So some of the best practices that we can kind of talk about for you on how you can protect that data and make sure it is secure is really by looking at things on how you're accessing that data, right? When we talk about secure remote access, we're talking about technology like VPN. I'm sure everybody at this point has probably heard that terminology, VPN, which is virtual private network, which is a secure way, encrypted, to connect to your work environment to make sure that any work that's being done or data being transmitted cannot be obtained. And, I can give you some real life examples, when this pandemic started for us all, here at Ansero, we had probably a good solid 2 weeks of all of our customers, calling into us, who aren't already on the cloud saying, I need to get my employees working. How do I do that? And, we probably spent the better part of 2 weeks just getting people set up from home to VPN into their environments. Now, of course, the challenge there is because nobody was ready or prepared for this. Again, there was no other way to do this than for them to use their personal computers at that point. And again, the challenge for us really is around, okay, not knowing what that computer was being used for previously. What kind of challenges do we have just setting up a VPN on that computer for them to do their work? So that was the things that companies like Ansero had to deal with when this pandemic started, to try to get people access to their environment. I think now, people have a really good understanding, and a lot of companies are continuing to adopt that remote workforce capabilities in some capacity. So there's a lot of things that, companies need to really take into consideration as they continue to move down this path. So, another great way to secure your data is using some sort of two-factor or multi-factor authentication. And I'm sure everybody's heard that terminology in the past. In your personal life, you've probably used it, just in getting access to your bank accounts online. But it's just another way to make sure your data is protected, and only the people that need to access the data have that access, because not only is it going to require them to put in a username and a password, but it's going to have that second level of authentication, whether it's a token, whether it's a PIN code sent to your phone, in order to give you that ability to access the company environment. So that's huge. A third one really is company policies. And this is one, again, I'm going to talk a lot about some of the company policies like that we use, that we have in place here at Ansero, because we have everything from obviously acceptable use policies in our company handbook to network access policies. And when I say network access policies, that means that you can't connect into the work environment unless you are connecting through a VPN connection. We talk about things on our network access policy where the devices that we're using, they have to be able to be registered on our network. They have to abide by specific standards. It has to be approved by management in order to use these devices on our network. Encryption protocols, we have to be able to register and track the devices. So these are all the things, again, I'm speaking specifically for Ansero, but these are the things that, really any organization, if you're going to have a remote workforce and a network access use policy, these are some of the things that really should be put in place today. And if you don't have them, certainly start to look at adding some of those things. Data protection policies. Again, if you have home users that are using their own personal computers and they are doing work and they are saving documents or adding things onto their local machine, again, most end users aren't backing up their home personal computers. And if they are backing them up, you really want your company data as part of their personal backup. So again, these are things that, you have to have in place. And for us, we're not allowed to do that. Again, it's in our policy handbook. Password policies, everybody hears about password policies. And I understand it's a pain because everybody's got a gazillion passwords that you have to try to remember. And again, you have to change them on a regular basis. Luckily, there's tools that are out there. There's password vaults that you can use that'll allow you to track those things so that you don't always need to remember them. And they are secure type of vaults that you can use. But again, password policies, email and internet use policies, these are all the things that really, as an organization, you need to have in place in order for your workforce to comply with the rules and regulations to protect your data. So I'm gonna stop here for a minute. Chrissy, I'm gonna let you jump back in here because I think you had another question or a poll you wanted to kind of throw out here.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw out a poll. I believe everybody will be able to answer. And the poll, let's see, I'm going to launch that. There we go. So you guys should see that. So anybody, are you currently using a cloud-based system today? As we let our members or our attendees answer this poll, I just wanted to throw out, we did have a couple of questions related to the, questions related to the question that I threw out earlier. And the first one being, having businesses stuck in silos, how do the different departments communicate in this new digital world? Mitch, what would be your opinion on helping, HR or companies in general, keep their different departments connected now that everybody's kind of virtual and working from home?
Well, the beauty is, in today's world, there are so many really cool collaboration tools that are out there to keep people connected. Again, we're a big Microsoft shop here at Ansero, so I know a lot of companies have adopted either Office 365 or the Google G Suite platform. Both of those platforms have really good collaboration tools involved with them, whether you're using, let's say, Microsoft Teams or you're using the Google Meet. All those capabilities allow you not only to communicate and do things like what we're doing today with video calls with your departments, with individuals, to be able to sharing documents, to being able to co-author documents at the same time. All those capabilities are really already pre-built into those platforms. So again, if you're not using some of those technologies today, it's a great way to dip your toes into the cloud because, again, they're all cloud-based technologies. But that's a great question, Chrissy.
Mm-hmm. And this is just kind of piggyback. This is more of a best practice, but when we had asked, what are some of the things that you're doing to really help with some of those concerns, just daily Zoom meetings to keep in touch, just to be able to see each other on a daily helps. Really, the challenge for a lot of people is keeping everyone connected since this is really going on longer than anticipated. And I can't agree more. I mean, sometimes it is a bit of a struggle to be home alone and kind of working remotely and not seeing your teammates on a daily basis, which you're so used to doing in our previous world. So those daily Zoom meetings, I'm a huge fan of that. I mean, Mitch, I don't know if that's something that you guys are doing on a daily basis as well.
Absolutely. So we have, as the manager of the sales and engineering group at Ansero, I kind of sit right in between our sales, our channel folks, our marketing folks, and our operational folks. So, we have on a regular basis, we have regular calls on Mondays where the entire sales and marketing teams are together, where we're talking on whether it's again, Microsoft Teams or a Zoom call. And even on our operational side, and we have different teams back on the operational side, they're talking multiple times a day with their team. And, for the audience that's listening is, even Ansero as a cloud solution provider, even our business today, our employees, most of our engineering resources are all remote today. There is a very small skeleton crew even today that comes into the office here at Ansero in Mount Laurel, but all of our engineering resources are actually all deployed remotely in their home offices. So again, because we communicate so much, we are having daily, sometimes multiple times a day, to make sure we're seeing each other, we're talking to one another, so nobody feels like they're left on an island by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm just going to throw one more at you before we move on with our poll results. And that is really just, what are some suggestions to help monitor productivity, within workforces that are remote?
So great question. And, there are tools that are out there, and a lot of our customers demand these types of auditing type of tools because, again, I started talking about using, whether it's even a work device or a personal device, the customer wants to know, the company wants to know, are their employees being productive? So there are tools that are out there that you can implement in your environment that actually will log, and it'll actually allow you to kind of get a good high level understanding of what your employees doing, where they're going on the network, what they're accessing, how long are they out on the internet. So all these tools are accessible and are available and are out there, just need to be implemented. And again, every organization's a little bit different on how they want to do things with their employees. But those capabilities are out there, and it's all really based on the company and what their demands are.
Of course, the mobile app will also feed the KPIs and the analytics in all unified communications platforms, so you can track every call that's made and
Yep.
all of that.
Yep. Especially, again, as Paul had mentioned here, if you're tied into some sort of voice over IP phone system, all those analytics from your call logging, how long you're on the phone, who are you calling, all that stuff is, again, all available.
And in a lot of CRMs, I mean, as a technology company, our whole space uses one of two platforms. We use a product called Autotask, and Autotask has built in all the KPIs, the key performance indicators of what is everybody doing, how many calls, how many tickets does an engineer have, how many have they handled during the day, how long have they been on that ticket. So all of that can be developed and built out, and I'm sure a lot of the CRM packages that run and help run everybody's business has those capabilities also available.
Great. Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. Okay, so I'm going to move on with the poll. So it looks like we have about 73% of our audience today that says yes, they are currently using a cloud-based system, which I'm very happy to hear. And then the remaining are kind of split. So 14% is a no and 14% is no, but I've been thinking about it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and then let you continue on.
Excellent. Thank you. So, let's just talk really about the cloud. And again, for those of you who are not in the cloud today or are thinking about the cloud, everybody today, believe it or not, is a great fit for the cloud. There's really nothing you can't do today that can't be done in the cloud. Obviously, certain things come at a higher expense based on the type of work that you're doing, but there really hasn't been anything that, at least us as an organization, and we deal with a lot of different types of businesses, that we haven't been able to do in the cloud. So, my advice for those of you who aren't using the cloud today, again, doing something with your email like Office 365 or implementing some sort of collaboration type of tools is a great way, again, to dip your toe into that cloud environment as a first step. And we saw this many, many years ago with our customers who were kind of hesitant in making that full jump into the cloud. They started by going down that path of just taking their email getting it off of their servers, getting it out of their environment, and moving it into the cloud. So it's a great first step. So, the cloud, everybody thinks, okay, well, what is the cloud? And the cloud's really just a bunch of data centers, by the big three providers. And we talk about the big three providers as Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. And it's really it's their data centers that are basically connected together. And really, they're providing all these resources to you as an end user, whether it's capacity for storage, servers, memory, databases. There's so many different things that you can do within these cloud environments, and they're really there to be able to provide that for you. So, really, Azure, Amazon, Google, they're platforms. They're what they call platform as a service. And again, they're just interconnected data centers all over the world. We chose Microsoft for a number of reasons. Obviously, one of their biggest reasons is, we're already a Microsoft partner. We're a big Microsoft partner today. Everything we do is around Microsoft and Microsoft solutions. We looked at all the different other options that were out there, and we even looked at tier 2 and tier 3 level cloud providers. But Microsoft offered us the best of what we can do in being able to not only design and architect solutions for our customers, but we know with the scalability and the security that they've put into their data centers, it allows us to extend that to our customers. And again, it's the biggest thing when we're talking to customers and making sure their information is protected, their environments are protected. We knew that we jumped on the right bandwagon, and we've been with the Azure cloud platform now for the better part of going on 2 years, and we've done a tremendous amount of work in converting a lot of our customers into the cloud from the traditional servers on-prem. We see today more and more organizations, they don't want to spend money on capital expenses and infrastructure and licensing. And, another reason we picked the Microsoft Cloud is because a lot of the licensing that you would typically pay if you were to put infrastructure on premise is included with your Azure subscription. So that was another big reason. And then again, bandwidth is huge because there's so much redundancy built into these environments. So again, when we looked at the total package of all the different other cloud providers, this was the best one from a security standpoint, from a scalability standpoint, to what we felt was the best for the businesses that we do business with. So that's kind of why we chose Azure. And again, the little picture that I have here on the slide just kind of shows you that everything and anything we can do, we actually do within the Azure cloud environment. And then we do have some programs that we layer on top, again, to secure everything from your email. Some companies have strict disaster recovery plans. And again, with Azure, we have that ability to have a East Coast, West Coast, geo-redundant failover plan in place. So all that's built into the platform. So the security piece is huge, what we talked about. And again, one of the biggest reasons we chose Azure is really because of their certifications and the compliance. We deal with a lot of different companies at Ansero. We do probably, 40% healthcare, roughly?
Yeah.
We do about 40% healthcare. We do a tremendous amount in the finance, accounting. But, we don't have one niche. We have a lot of different types of companies, but a lot of the organizations that do business with Ansero are compliant-driven companies. So we need to make sure that wherever we're putting them, and wherever you're looking to put your information should be somewhere where these certifications and the compliance is in place. And again, whether it's PCI, HIPAA, SOC, all those things are already in Azure. Probably lists, 1,000 different certifications nationally and internationally. The other things, to think about is, you're always going to be, when you're in the Azure platform, on the latest and greatest technology. So the days of where you're purchasing equipment and then, 3, 5, 7 years down the road, you're replacing it. When you're in the cloud, you're in the cloud environment, you're always going to know that you're not only the latest and greatest technology from the infrastructure side, but the security side as well. To give you a little example of how secure the Azure cloud environment really is they have a team of 35 plus hundred security people that are constantly on a daily basis trying to hack into their own systems to find any type of vulnerabilities. And they have a red team and a blue team that basically focuses on this every single day. That's how secure the environment is, because they want to make sure that any and every way potentially possible is basically closed so that people can't get into those environments. With the cloud also, there's the ability to really, for your employees, really limit when they can't work if that's a concern for you. So there are metrics that are in place where if your environment needs to be up between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., it's accessible. After that time, you can basically, and again, this can be very granular, where management still has access to the environment, but let's say day-to-day people don't have access to the environment after hours. So again, it's another way to protect the company's assets and the company data. And again, business continuity, and we talk about business continuity, it's not only backup, but it's recoverability as well. So, in the cloud, all those capabilities are built into the solutions that are put in front of you. So not only you have your data there, but it's all included, including a backup and a recovery strategy as well. And again, when you're looking at cloud, you want to do business with somebody who's considered a cloud solution provider, because again, there's a certain amount of rules and regulations to fall under in order to become a cloud service provider, and that's who you want to be doing business with. So the last slide here is really regarding vendor compliance. And vendors today, the people that you're doing business with, whether it's your customers, whether it's your vendors, they're now demanding the same regulations that your business has to abide to, that you want them to abide by as well. So, you want to work with a provider that has a track record of being able to do these things and being able to meet those certifications. For Ansero, we became what they call a SOC 2 Type 2 level service provider, and that really stands for Security, Service, and Operational Controls. And it's something that's it's a pretty rigorous process that we have to go through on an annual basis. It's done by usually by a CPA firm, part of the AICPA. We actually used a company called the Moore Group who did it for us. And there's a lot of different levels or principles of what they call from a SOC level. And for a managed IT provider, a cloud solution provider like us, we have strict security and privacy standards that we have to abide by in order to handle any customer data. Now, all those standards and all those operational business processes has to be documented as it pertains to the technology that we have in place. So this is something that we go through on an annual basis, again, because our customers are demanding it of us, our technology partners are demanding of us, and that kind of sets not only us, but it would set you apart, because as you get audited or potentially audited by your vendors and your customers, it kind of checks all those boxes from a security standpoint of how your data is being accessed, where your data is stored, who has access to it, etc. So again, customers, vendors, strategic partners are all requiring these types of certifications really in order to do business with them. And it's super important. Again, it's something that we went down the path, and decided to do a couple of years ago, and we continue to do it on an annual basis. So you really should be working with somebody, with a provider that kind of meets those standards, especially if you're in a compliant-driven organization. So, this was the presentation we put in front of you today. I hope, a lot of the things made sense, hit home for some of you. And what I'd like to do, Chrissy, is maybe open up and see if there's any questions that anybody has, and certainly happy to answer any questions. So I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type those into the chat box. I just want to make a quick note on the SOC 2 Type 2 certified provider. I know for us over at KP, that was something that was extremely important for us. Obviously, being in the business that we're in, we have a lot of sensitive information that we deal with on a daily basis. And we're now very confident that all of our servers now sit within the cloud-based system because we know that that's secure. And for any of our KP clients on the call today, that's something that should be important to you guys as well, that we're, focusing on that. And we're also looking at our vendors. When we work with our vendors, we make sure that they have those types of certifications. I did have one question. I know that, you kind of touched on the recovery as it relates to the cloud. But if you could get a little bit more specific in layman terms about, how the cloud is backed up, what if it crashes? What if there's a company, your particular company, that has a security breach while in the cloud? Why are we protected because we're working within the cloud? If you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. And I'll do my best not to get too technical and in the weeds here.
That's why I threw out in layman terms.
Yeah. So again, backups included in every solution that we architect and we design here at Ansera for our customers. So, not only just like you're doing today, whether you're using a traditional backup system, you're backing up to tape, or you're backing up to a local disk storage appliance, or you're backing up and you're sending something off-site, which I would say if you're not doing something cloud-based already, you should have something cloud-based. Because you want to make sure your data is stored in multiple locations securely. But just speaking about the solutions that we put in place, so again, it's a multiple times a day backup. The environments that we're putting our customers into are certainly replicated across multiple Microsoft data centers. So there's redundancy within infrastructure, there's redundancy within backups, and then again, some companies have higher levels that they're looking for where you can do geographical diversity for restorations as well. So God forbid something happened with a Microsoft or Microsoft data centers on the East Coast, you can quickly restore on the West Coast. So again, backup business continuity is really what we call it, is really all built and designed within our solutions that we put together for our customers.
Great, thank you.
Christy, I just want to add, this is Paul. We really, when we evaluated what cloud platform, what we really liked, Microsoft, we felt kind of build a better secure environment where the data servers, right, where the data resides and the connection servers are two completely separate networks with a just-in-time algorithm that they own and developed that's never been hacked to this point, and the others have. So we really liked what they did and how secure, and the mere fact, and Mitch did a great job on why it was a good fit, but Microsoft does own 90% of every operating system in every corporate environment worldwide, and when you own the software that drives, all the applications, it just kind of makes sense that for the SMB, 500 users and below, it's really well positioned for a small business. But I just wanted to just say how securely they designed and implemented that platform.
Great, thank you for that. While we're staying on the subject of security, I think when you move to a cloud-based system like this, and you kind of sometimes will have this false sense of security as it relates to what you're doing as an employee inside of that. So how important is it after you move to a cloud with a VPN is to continue employee education?
Extremely important, extremely important. Because again, remember, the statistics are out there and the statistics continue to grow and grow that, most companies today that are hit with things like crypto, ransomware, those types of things, unfortunately, it's really because an employee clicked on the wrong thing that they shouldn't have clicked on. And, so just regular security awareness in general, is something even us at Ansero, we have to go through on a regular basis. Every employee here at Ansero continues to have to go through that on an annual basis. And again, it's the simplest things of just understanding, what's a good email versus a bad email. What we do here at Ansero, again, in a lot of the solutions that we design and architect for our customers, is from a security standpoint, the things that could potentially harm you from crypto lock or ransomware, we kind of try to eliminate and mitigate a lot of those risks from even happening by not being able to give people the ability, in our cloud environments to be able to save things locally to their machines. So again, unless you're using a cloud desktop, or let's just say a virtual desktop, you could save it maybe to your virtual desktop, but you can't save it back to your local machine. Again, it's another way to protect the company's data from ever leaving the environment, and it protects, them from potentially getting a virus or anything like that. So there's a lot of different things from a technology standpoint that we put in place on how these solutions are designed. But we try to look at it, again, security, compliance are the biggest things, and it all kind of starts there, and the solutions start morphing from that.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say are some of the biggest threats today that our audience should be kind of mindful of?
The threats are unfortunately are everywhere, and they're going to continue because, everybody, again, unfortunately is put into this situation where they have to work from home. I would definitely say, again, if the company does not have a policy on issuing employees machines to use if they are going to work remotely, I highly recommend that they do that, obviously, because they can put more controls in place, from just making sure the right software is on there, the right protections on there. And again, continuing to educate your employees and talk to your employees. Specifically, any threats in general, they're becoming more and more creative every day. So education is the biggest thing.
And I would just add, Chrissy, that all the companies and organizations on the call are as good as their solution provider has architected for them, or they have done themselves, right? And this layered approach that Mitch spoke about, with firewalling and antivirus and email security, and making sure all those advanced threat protections are turned on, based on the specific requirement and environment in each organization. But one thing Ansero is not, and any IT company like Ansero can't be a cybersecurity company, because the cybersecurity companies, when we bring them in, they're grading us. They're actually looking at our cloud designs. They're looking at the security layered approach that we've put in place, and they're telling us, this is good, or things need to be added. So, for certain compliance-driven organizations, having a cybersecurity a company involved with some basic training, maybe an annual risk assessment is money well spent. and it keeps the IT provider, whoever they are, to make sure best practices are being deployed and those environments are secure. And as Mitch said, I wouldn't do business. I mean, we have our SOC 2 Type 2, which is the most rigorous certification that the path we could go down. It essentially says that the service provider has proven that its systems, right, are designed to keep the client data secure. It also guarantees that performance and reliability is in place for regulators, examiners, auditors on an annual basis. And the combination of a neutral third party like a cybersecurity company and that SOC certification, especially the SOC 2 Type 2, which is the most rigorous, kind of sets the stage for everything being in place that's needed.
Great. Yeah, that is something to think about for sure. So this question is really just a piggyback off of the question about employee education. And, obviously it's important to keep employees educated, keep them in the know. What would you say are some best practices to educate employees? What would that look like for you guys? What would you suggest?
So again, I can speak on the education that we do here. And again, a lot of it is around security. So, we subscribe to certain applications that video tutorials that you have to go through, that, you have to answer quizzes at the end. There's a lot of different programs that are out there. KnowBe4 is a big one for cybersecurity.
For phishing,
those types of things. But again, educating your employees just in security in general. And again, like Paul mentioned, and Sarah, we're not a cybersecurity company. We always address the best practice from a security standpoint. Again, because it's that layered approach, we want to make sure you understand you have to have some sort of antivirus on your device. We want to make sure your network is protected, whether you have a firewall. You can't imagine how many businesses that we have conversations with, small businesses that, are still running off of their Comcast business internet connection with not even a firewall protecting them from the outside world. So, educating them on just the things that you should have in place, a firewall. If you're working remotely, obviously you're probably not going to have a firewall at home, but making sure, the company device you have has antivirus on there. You're using some sort of email security to help protect you from things like phishing attacks, spam, malware, those types of things. And then obviously, company policy is going to be huge. And everyone needs to understand those different company policies, because that's really going to determine how you can access your data, when you can access your data, and how to measure that as well.
Yeah, multi-factor authentication.
Having multi-factor authentication is huge because it can be used in a lot of different ways. It can be used to front end just accessing your environment. It can get as granular as using it to just be able to access specific applications. So email is a great one. So you can enable two-factor authentication where, you can't get into your email without a password and then a token or a PIN number to get into it. So all those different layers have to be put in place in order to protect the information.
And even just taking it one step further, on top of training on all the different security aspects, there are companies out there that provide awareness training on specific compliance. So if you're a company that, really wants to make sure that your employees are up to date with what they need to be doing from a HIPAA standpoint or PCI, there are resources out there to provide training on that end as well to help manage the compliance side of things as well as the security side of things.
Great. Thank you for that. I think we have one last question and then we'll wrap up today's presentation. This one is around education, but more so about learning the capabilities around, Microsoft 365 with Teams. We know that it includes many resources. Us at KP, we have been living on Teams and we're learning how valuable that is and staying connected throughout this new virtual world that we're all living in. But with Microsoft 365, with Teams including so many resources, what are the best ways to learn all the capabilities of the system?
So, I mean, first and foremost, obviously, you want to talk to the right service provider, right? So you need to make sure you're talking to somebody like an Ansero that understands, the capabilities in the platform and what you can do. Now, Teams and a lot of these programs are very comprehensive. So I always like to use the terminology that, like, when you're going to use it and when you build it, you want to design it the right way, because if you just start using it out of the box, you wind up just kind of making a mess out of it. So you want to have some sort of structure put in place if you're going to use it. The basic chatting, the basic video conferencing, those features are great. But when you start, everything you do within, let's just say, a Teams environment is basically built on the Microsoft SharePoint platform. So if you're going to do things like, having document libraries where people can go to, very collaborative, again, you just need to make sure you're talking to the right provider, and certainly we can help and direct you in the right way on how to implement it. And again, every company is going to be different because they're all going to have their own ideas of what they're looking for.
But Chrissy, what a great point and a great question, whoever asked it. So I know Shandy Hogue is on the call, who's our Director of Marketing. She has all of the Google Analytics off of our website, social media, integrated right into our Teams platform, which I have access to, and we collaborate and share and look at on a consistent basis. We have a repository of key documents. It's almost like an intranet site. It can be built, and we've been developing and integrating our VoIP offering, our unified communications platform, right into Teams, which we're been in a beta mode testing. So, we're doing a tremendous amount of development, and we think Microsoft got this really, really right, and with a lot more to come. I think you're going to see over the next 12, 24 months just all kinds of capability being rolled out on a consistent basis.
I will add too, because this is something that I did when we first started using Teams. They have an extensive library of videos on YouTube that aren't terribly long. They're a few minutes each, but they'll walk you through the basics of Teams. So that's a great resource for anybody who just maybe doesn't know how to do something on Teams. They have a lot of great content and videos out there that kind of step you through how to do some of those things.
Great. Yeah, I know. Like I said, we're using Teams a lot here at KP, but just to hear of some of the additional resources, I think will be helpful for us. Those YouTube videos sounds incredibly helpful, and the VoIP portion of that, I'm sure Lenny and Lisa are listening, so I'll leave that to them. But thank you so much for joining us today, Mitch, Paul, and Megan. This was great. I think this was extremely helpful to our audience. If you have any additional questions as we close out today's presentation, please feel free to email me. I can certainly get you connected to the folks over at Ansero. And for everybody else, thank you for joining us. And hopefully we'll be able to connect with you guys soon.
Chrissy, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Again, thank you to the KatzPierz team for allowing us to present, and thank you for all of the attendees for attending this morning.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody be safe. Take care.
Stay well.